Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Austin, Texas, the show of being really, really smart, passing the LSAT, and always being driven to do the next big thing. Today's guest, as a continuation of Wine Week on Show to Be, yes, the first of probably many chats about wine. I'm sorry to those of you who are really interested in wine and feel I haven't shed enough light on it. I swear I'm going to rectify that particular grievance, and who better to do that with than Master Somm, June Rodil. June is a staple personality, mind, and business ambitious, go-getting entrepreneur in Austin, Texas. And we talk about lots of stuff. We talk about wine, of course. We talk about playing music, being a nerd, going to grad school, LSATs, and the upcoming June Rodil McGuire Moorman Hospitality Collaborative Project, Junes. Should be easy for you guys to remember. So, without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this chat with June Rodil.
Life.
A sommelier? What is that?
Exactly. Somalian?
Don't go there.
Yeah.
It's terribly dangerous. How dare you? So you got, when we were kind of trying to arrange this, you were getting back into the country, is that right? Were you?
I was in New Zealand. Yes.
That's pretty far. Like, I don't know if you can get farther, actually.
I don't think so. It's actually, for wine, it's the most southeasterly region in the world.
No kidding.
That I went to, but it was my first time there. It was really fabulous.
What took you to New Zealand?
So there's a
Flight of the Conchords reunion.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, just Flight of the Conchords and Hobbitstown. No, it's a New Zealand Wine Growers is kind of a consortium, a marketing firm for New Zealand wines.
Oh wow!
And they have kind of offices in the United States and the UK, in Europe, in China. And they have a trip once a year where it's international wine people, so media, sommeliers, and we all come together and they show us New Zealand, and it's kind of our job.
That's amazing.
Afterwards, to give them feedback. It's very
feedback on what the tour, the products, or
mostly the products, mostly the wine. I mean, definitely they want feedback on how the tour went. Time management organization, but you're really there to discover the land and the regions and the people and the wines, because there's not actually a lot of representation of New Zealand wines, like smaller growers in the United States.
It's not a very big country, right?
No, it's not. And
they don't have, there's not a seat at the table yet for that.
Not quite yet. Big companies,
sure.
Like you do, like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is so popular, but there's all these like small boutique growers, just like anywhere else that you would find. And,
sure.
I mean, we're drinking something from California that's a small boutique grower,
but
it's much more difficult to get that from so far away into the U.S.
It's a hell of a journey.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Do things grow pretty well out there?
Yes.
They have a lot of fruits and grapes and things that grow?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's basically a very contained and sustainable country.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be because it's so far away from everything.
Insulated. It's, or insular, really.
Exactly. And I mean, really, really great agriculture. Aside from wine, like their produce was amazing. And of course, seafood. My God, so good.
So of course, because I'm a tad hungry. So was there something that you had that you're like, this just tastes so different and so much more crisp or fresh?
Food wise?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. So they call rock lobster crayfish.
Okay.
So I didn't know what that was. So they're like, we're gonna get some cray and chips, and I was like, crayfish and French fries, got it. And then we go to this little shack on a beach, and they're literally like just bringing in rock lobsters.
Oh my God.
Live rock lobsters from the beach, and we're popping open bottles of wine, and it's just a very New Zealand experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, you don't get lobster like that.
I can't imagine.
It's really, really, it's sweet.
Yeah.
And it's fresh. Like even in Texas, if we get Maine lobster, it's been flash frozen just for safety's sake.
Yeah, sure.
So to be able to like watch someone pick it up from a net and then they make it for you, it's pretty
insane.
Sick. It's
what do
pretty
they
sick.
serve? What do they serve it with?
Nothing. Butter.
So it's just butter.
It's boiled lobster with drawn butter, and you're like you eat it with your hands.
Yeah.
They didn't have forks. You just eat it with your hands.
What do you pair with that?
We had sparkling wine.
Beautiful.
Yeah, sparkling. New Zealand like Chardonnays, Pinot Noir blends, basically in the style of champagne. So pretty serious wine.
When are you writing the book?
I don't. So funny.
Capturing this amazing series of experiences.
I am a horrible writer, but a very good assessor.
If they give you like a series of check boxes, it's perfect, right?
I don't know. I mean, I'm there to like be an ambassador. So essentially they'll do master classes for the trade, and then they'll bring in myself to a big trade event to kind of talk to them about the regions and the wines.
Wow.
And
So would you consider yourself a compatriot of Texas or the United States in the capacity you usually travel? Is it for the state or for the nation?
Depends. In this instance, with New Zealand wine growers, it was an international trip, so it was definitely as a representative from the States.
Yeah, that's killer.
It's pretty crazy.
Is everybody cool there? It seems like they're really cool.
In New Zealand?
Yeah.
They are rad.
Really cool, right?
Yeah, they are chill and awesome.
They like to drink too.
A lot.
Do they have pubs, or do they call it something else?
No, they totally have pubs. They have
Good.
pubs, ale houses, really fabulous coffee.
Really?
Too.
Where does it come from?
They make it. Well, I mean, they source it.
Okay.
So there are like single origin coffees, but it's not a country with like a Starbucks around the corner all the time.
That's nice.
Everything is like around the corner is like your local coffee person.
The dude who does the thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of a nerd about coffee. So whenever I stepped off the airport or stepped off the plane, the first coffee shop I saw had like a La Marzocco machine, and it was in the airport. And it was,
airport?
Everybody had serious coffee makers. And I was like, this is a good country.
But it's not
good coffee country.
seemingly devoid of pretension though, too. Like everybody's just down to earth. They just like good stuff.
Yes.
Gotta love that. How long's the flight out there?
A long time. There's now a direct flight from Houston to Auckland.
No kidding.
Which is awesome. I got it on the way back. It's not like super regular.
Yeah.
And it was a little over 13 hours.
That's not so bad.
Some people are like, I would die. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, you like sleep for 7 hours, and then
but
you
you
like
drink
work
first,
a little
sleep,
bit.
drink. It's so it's a pretty cush gig.
I have
gotta tell you.
Oh, and I have to say, so I think basically the only airline that goes in there is Air New Zealand.
Okay.
Which is an awesome airline because it was made by New Zealanders, and they're the people that have to travel the furthest to get anywhere, right? So it's pretty comfortable. It's a pretty comfortable
I imagine.
Yeah.
What's the wine selection pretty good? I imagine it's pretty good.
Pretty good. Yes.
I was ecstatic when United started carrying Buffalo Trace bourbon in the little bottles.
It's nice, right?
Changed the game.
No more Jim Beam.
No more. Why? I have no problem. No problem with Jim Beam.
But still, you're like,
not my preference, right? Like you guys struck a deal. I'm gonna just travel just for the sake of getting the little wienery, little Buffalo Trace.
I love it too. I was like, what is this?
So cool, right? And then all the lounges and stuff. Like
it's good.
Traveling isn't so bad.
It's not. If you travel often, then you like start kind of getting into your pattern.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's your alone time.
Very true.
How
often would you say you travel? Like in a quarter?
And it depends. I mean, a trip like that is once a year, maybe twice a year. That was an extremely long trip, and I don't like being away. It was 16 days away from work.
Oh, geez.
And I don't like being away from work that often.
What about being away from the wonderful love of your life? That's got to be tough as well, yeah?
Oh, it's super. I mean, not super hard, but it's hard. I mean, he'll start missing me like day 6. You know? Day 6, he's like, you're going to come home ever? But, the first week he's like, yeah, I'm going to like do whatever I want.
And then it gets boring doing what you want.
Yeah, then it's like, I'm watching Netflix a lot.
Have you went out at all? Like, nah, I just
what
felt
are you
like...
doing? Oh, you're like, yeah, no, I went out hard for the first 3 days and then I'm done.
It's so strange. That's how it is. It's like Lydia left for a weekend. I'm like, cool. So she left Friday, went to King B, had some mezcal. Francisco, we were talking about, was in town. Great. Awesome.
Great mezcal selection. I love Billy and Colette.
The best, dude. Like, it's my favorite place for mezcal. And they brought out this new bottle, blah, blah, blah. So we do it. I'm like, cool. With my friend, I get to spend some time. And then Saturday, watching movies all day. Like, it's not a productive use of time. And then Sunday, by the time Sunday afternoon rolls around, I'm like, when's she getting back?
Well, this is a really crazy bachelor life for one day.
Yeah, I can't. Is it because I'm old? I don't know. It's because we're older.
It's because we're old. It's because we're old.
I still got edge. What is edge? Maybe, I don't know.
For one day. You have edge for one day. It's totally fine. It's just in smaller
It was the greatest Netflix purge of all time. So are you from Texas originally?
No, I'm originally from a little city called Cavite City. It's right outside of Manila. So I was born in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I lived there until I was almost 5, and my parents moved to Dallas. They're nurses. So
interesting.
So it's very common. Filipino nurses getting kind of recruited from the United States
so they were recruited, made all the paperwork and everything possible. Mm-hmm. That's a good
yeah,
gig.
Well, I mean, it's an awesome gig, but it is a little bit difficult. Like growing up, my mom went first, and then it took a few years for my paperwork to...
Oh, man. Who are you staying with?
See, my grandparents.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have any brothers or sisters?
I have 2 younger sisters. They were born in the United States. They were born in Dallas.
Cool. So after you guys made it. Mm-hmm. How old did you say you were when you moved into...
4.5.
Oh, so it's like seamless for you, right?
Pretty much. I mean,
even though you're staying with your grandparents, but
yeah, it was a transition for sure. I do remember it because it's your formative years.
Jarring, right?
It's I had to learn English. You do learn English when you're going to school, but that was the start of me learning English when I was 4 in like preschool. So I had to really kind of get a grasp of it within the span of 3 months to be able to stay in the proper grade.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to do this.
Well,
right?
it wouldn't have been an issue to be a grade behind, but I think it was important to my mom for me to kind of socially integrate pretty quickly. And then, because I was already, different because I didn't speak English.
Right. Well, and your parents knew English by that point, I guess, right?
Yes.
Being in that kind of... that. So any specialties? Was it like RN? Was it a specific area?
My mom's an RN. She now specializes in wound care. So she does preventative wound care research at UT in Arlington. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
UT. Yeah.
Yes. But she was with the Baylor system for like 30 years.
No kidding.
Yeah, this is very new. But it's great. I mean, she found a specialty and
it's incredible.
She's fabulous. Yeah.
And your dad as well?
My dad's a nurse as well. General practice kind of nursing.
Cool. Yeah. So what's that like? Did you like the newness, the difference? Because I imagine obviously everybody looks different. Mm-hmm. It's different language. Schools are totally different.
Right.
The pace is different.
Right.
Of life in Dallas, even though Dallas is pretty busy.
Oh no, I freaked out, man. I freaked out. I remember freaking out at an inside grocery store because you don't have those in the Philippines.
Just open markets, right?
Just open markets, and my mom found me crying in the middle of an aisle because I didn't know where to go because it was just so expansive and huge with fluorescent lighting and
artificial in every way.
It was very artificial, and it was really, really scary. It was really funny, and I mean, looking back, I was like, man, I cried it out for probably half of a year.
Really?
Oh my god!
Just because it was so different.
It was so shocking. It was so shocking.
Wow. Was it easy to meet people?
For sure, because you're in school.
Yeah, you kind of have to assimilate, right?
And by the time that you go to school, you're kind of like, okay, I'm good. Yeah. There's people, there's kids. We're all kind of learning the
doing
same
some
thing.
stuff.
Yeah, we're all learning math together. So and then there was I had a cool little best next door neighbor friend or whatever. So you just integrate as quickly as possible. Kids are adaptable. Yeah.
Well, they're totally open at that point.
Yeah. And it was
we become really, really rigid when we're older.
So true. You're like, oh, I'm going to cry it out. Okay, I'm good. And that was it.
You're cool. I'm cool. Cool. We're good. Right. But now it's like, oh, you did that.
Oh, no. Now, you're just we're all super judgy.
I don't know what happens.
I don't know.
I think you accumulate experiences. And thus you kind of chip away at life.
Sure.
It's like, well, I did that one time. Wasn't for me. woke up in a dumpster.
Right. Exactly.
No more Jaeger. Thank
Yes.
you very much. No more Jaeger, right.
Mine is Goldschlager. Like,
Right.
Never again.
Goldschlager, yes.
Never again. Junior year of high school. Never again.
It's so pretty, though.
I was like,
It's
oh, this
stunning.
seems cool. Cinnamon is delicious.
Until
No,
it's
it's not.
not delicious
No, it's not.
anymore. Is there a big Filipino community where you guys were living?
No, not really. I mean, not so much. I was definitely kind of like the only Filipino kid in my school within my group of friends.
Okay.
I mean, there were other Filipinos here and there, but it wasn't like and it definitely wasn't like we're Filipino and we band together.
Right,
We
right.
just kind of are there.
Yeah.
You know.
That's funny. That's the white people. As a white person, that's the assumption we make. Like, wait, you guys don't band together? What
Yeah.
the-
Do you know so-and-so from Chicago? She's Filipino too. No.
I don't even know what you're talking
I'm
about.
like, no, I don't know her.
So it was a pretty good experience, and you finished high school up outside. Was it Dallas proper, or was it outside?
And I finished high school in Mesquite. I started.
Mesquite, okay.
I went to Catholic school.
Oh, really?
And my
Filipinos Catholic? What are you talking about?
so rare. Total Catholic school when I was in elementary school, and then my parents moved to the burbs, and then I went to a public school. It was awesome and get to wear your own clothes.
Totally different, right?
Yeah.
No more uniform.
No more nuns. It was really cool. Didn't have to go to church every day.
Yeah.
I felt so much freedom. And then grew up in the burbs, went to high school there, and actually left high school early to go to a magnet school.
Yeah.
And left home when I
Because
was
you
16.
were really erudite, really academically inclined, or because you started a fight?
Maybe a little bit of both. No, academically inclined. Basically, you do have to take a psych test to make sure that you can,
Cope.
and an IQ test. Yeah, to make sure that you can cope.
Really?
You have to like get a counselor to sign off on it, and
shit, that's
your
crazy.
parents like sign off on it to make sure that I'm hereby allow my child to go to college early. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good.
Yeah,
You
I
don't even
mean,
do that for Uber drivers.
yeah. I highly recommend people like going through the testing before going to college.
Is it
when you're
tough
16.
getting psychologically analyzed? I've never been.
No, it wasn't. It was a counselor. It was,
Okay,
and a psychologist. It wasn't anything super intense.
Just like some questions.
Yeah, and I honestly never really thought. I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course, it's 2 years earlier than the normal
And 16?
person. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Were you equipped to even like? I wouldn't have been equipped to take on that additional responsibility at that young of an age.
I was stoked. I mean, I was
Really?
totally the kid that was like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And it was very weird, I think, because, in high school, I was like doing fine, I was in like AP classes, captain of the cheerleading squad, like all these like
What didn't you
things.
do, June?
I play the violin. It's
you really?
It's a very Asian thing, guys.
Oh my gosh.
And maybe that was it. Maybe it was just like, oh,
What do you
just
got?
kind of
What do you
like,
got, life?
I'm going through the motions, and it didn't seem right. Like there was something I didn't feel like socially, like I didn't feel like I fit into a
Yeah.
specific clique. I didn't find my people in high school.
Is it because you were so ambitious and kind of just that step ahead of people that weren't necessarily interested? Or
I don't know.
was it
I think it was more so that I was interested in many things, and there wasn't one thing that drove me. And I think in high school, it's very easy to be, known for one specific thing, right?
Right.
So, like, if you're a cheerleader, you're a cheerleader.
Right.
And I really loved like my AP classes,
Yeah.
and I really loved music, and I really loved, like reading all the time and
Where did
going
the
to.
music bug come from? Was it in your family, or just another thing to kind of take up and really?
I think it was
Master.
No, I think it was like, and now it's time to find an instrument for you to play, kind of thing.
They're
And,
just stacking it on.
and you're like, okay, I choose the violin. Yeah.
Why the violin? It's a beautiful. I love classical music to know.
I was small hands.
Okay, that
So
makes some sense.
yeah, so piano was kind of like not for me.
Yeah.
And
No tuba. It's just too big.
that tuba was kind of gone. Like my younger sister was like, I'm gonna play the drums and the guitar, and I was
Nice.
like, that's way cooler than the violin.
Is she the edgier version?
Oh yeah, she was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna bang on these things, and I was like, good for you. Wow, I chose the violin.
What's wonderful instrument.
Beautiful, and like I love orchestra. Like I love going to the symphony. I think I think that classical music is wonderful. I love going to the opera.
Yeah. Do you still get to play it all?
No, I mean I'd be in like I'd be like Suzuki book 1.
Okay.
Probably if I like had to do it. But I could
Twinkle, little star.
Yeah, I could probably pick it up fairly quickly, but it's been ages.
Really?
Ages since I did that.
So how was the school? You said
So it's called
Magnet?
It's basically, I mean, that's how I refer to it, but it's essentially it's a a Texas government approved school whereby you get your credits simultaneously to graduate and your core curriculum during your first 2 years of college.
Understood. Okay. And this was in Mesquite as well?
No, it was in Beaumont, Texas.
Beaumont?
Yeah, at good old Lamar University. The irony is the school was a humanities school, a humanities kind of program, but Lamar University is an engineering school.
How did they balance that shit?
I don't know. It's just like...
worked out for you, though.
It worked out for me. Beaumont is kind of, no offense to anyone from Beaumont, but it is a little bit like the armpit of Texas.
Spent a month in Beaumont one night.
I mean, it smells like sulfur.
Sure.
So, I mean, and that's it's hilarious because that is a wine smell that's so specific that like I will never miss. Like I know exactly what
you got the best training about sulfur.
I know,
you grew up with it.
Like 0.001 parts per million. I know that's a sulfur smell.
This is the Beaumont smell.
Yeah, I know that smell very well. Yeah, and then went to school there for 2 years. Transferred to UT
in Austin.
And I moved to UT when I was 18.
What year are we talking?
1998. I'm an 80s baby.
So am I. You were going to college when I was still putzing around with a choker necklace in high school.
I mean, just because I went to college early does not mean that I graduated early. How about that?
Well, sure. Good. That makes me feel a little bit better, but it still took me 6 years.
I mean, I think altogether, because I decided that I needed a second major, probably was like 7 or 8 years.
Oh, that's good.
Because I mean, and honestly, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And there's the pressure of like having gone for it so young. And then the realization so my degree is in English. It's in English literature. And I definitely didn't want to go into academia. Just that world seemed bizarre.
Just stiff or?
Just bizarre, honestly, like, because it's weird when your world is liberal arts oriented and then you realize that academia is very bureaucratic.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I mean, the world is bureaucratic, and maybe I was just still very idealistic at that time, and I was like, why can't I just like read and research and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Not have to play the game.
Exactly. So I got a part-time job as a file clerk with these attorneys that are amazing. Like I still know them. They're so rad. And then I took my LSAT, took an LSAT course, took my LSAT, got accepted to law school, did not go because I did not want to do it.
So, okay. All right. So you go to UT, you finish 2 years in Beaumont, 2 years at UT as an English, but it ends up being a little bit longer. Take your LSATs, you're completely primed to be a law student. The parents are proud, I'm sure.
Oh, sure.
Was it any kind of just shock to the system going into Austin, which, I mean, you've been Mesquite's suburbia, but it's so close to Dallas, kind of get a metropolitan feel. But being by yourself in Austin and kind of introduced into that, were you just totally embracing it? Was it any different socially for you?
Oh, no, I totally embraced Austin. I mean, I embraced the academy, the magnet school. I embraced being independent immediately. I mean, in the back of my mind, I was probably independent when I was 8, you know? So, like, I thought I was an only child, even though I had 2 younger sisters kind of thing. Right. So, yeah, completely embraced it, loved it, worked all the time, too. I had a part-time job at a law firm, plus another part-time job in the hospitality industry. That's how I fell in love with it.
Where about?
In the Driscoll.
You were working at the Driscoll?
Yeah.
What were you doing over there?
I started off as a cocktail server. I'll never forget my still friend, Paula Rester's boss, Scott Walker, was my boss then.
No kidding.
Yeah. And he thought I was horrible.
Why did he think that?
Oh, just because like I had no idea what I was doing. I was 19, you know?
Yeah, it happens.
I was like, here's some scotch. And it was, you could still smoke cigars indoors.
I remember that before the ban, yeah.
Yeah. And I could sell like $100 cigar just because I memorized the differences between the different cigars. Like,
In terms of the way that they were raised or the flavors?
Just like, the supposed flavor. I never smoked cigars in my life.
Right.
But just like, read up on them, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, even the Winston Churchill. And we were like, okay.
But at the same time, it's like, I imagine there's a fork in the road at some point, right? You finish your LSAT. I don't even know how long it took you to prepare for those. But how long did you take to study for the LSATs?
Like 6 months.
Jeez, it's a good chunk of change.
Yeah, and it was not inexpensive to take like a Kaplan course either. I was like, this is what I should do. And
was one picking up steam over the other, or what? So what was it that you thought like law? I can't do it.
Well, I couldn't. I decided that I didn't want to do it because I realized that I was already doing things that I really liked.
Yeah.
I think that during that time. This is in the early 2000s, like the role of the sommelier or the beverage directors, wasn't very much seen in the Austin food world at all.
Right. There wasn't much of it. There wasn't a scene necessarily.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it's difficult to really take the leap to see that, to see that you can make a life out of hospitality. Yeah. I think now if, someone was 23, 24, and then it would be much easier to say like, oh, I want to be a hospitality professional. Absolutely. Like you see it in the media. There's reality television shows, radio shows, everything.
ABC show now, right?
Exactly. Like,
it's a thing. It is a legitimate career now.
It is a legitimate career and it is awesome. And I love it. But it was very scary when I was in my early 20s and I was like, man, I really like the service industry. And I was the captain of the Driscoll, but by that time, like doing the pairings, but people would still just be like, oh, you're a waiter. And I'm like, yeah.
Right, they'd reduce it immediately, right?
You're a waiter. And it sucked. It sucked. So you automatically think that that's not a plausibility for you to continue to do that for the rest of your life. Or to be able to, like, you don't see the growth perspective.
Right. It's almost like people equating you to strippers or something.
You're a server. And you're like, yeah, but and then you're like, I really like it. I really like
it's
actually.
Rich. It's full of academic knowledge, applied knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that there is many a failed liberal arts student that has gone into the hospitality industry. Yeah. But there's a kinship between like liberal arts and hospitality.
Oh my gosh. You're so,
And
whether it's music, no surprise that you played music, although I imagine it was part of the portfolio you had to put together as the upright student. It's great fucking everything, right? But so was at some point there's a lot of money in law, right or wrong, ethical or not? There's a lot of money in it.
Absolutely, and at some point I was like, I need to find a job that will allow me to enjoy all the things that I have just found, which is wine, food, like travel, all of these things that I've experienced as a waiter.
Right.
But how do I continue? How do I sustain being able to taste foie gras and caviar and Krug champagne, like all of these things that you get to taste as, essentially someone that's serving, but you still get to be part of that world. And it's not, there's not a lot of, I don't think there's a lot of industries where that happens.
I don't think so either.
So I was like, I'll be a lawyer. And I mean,
was it that way? Did you have any of course your intelligence makes you have a inherent predilection towards law.
Okay.
Right? Now that's like fine, right? Because obviously you think about things quick. I already just talking to you, I can tell you can think on the fly, you can frame arguments and frame logic really, really quickly. So you have a propensity towards it, which is great. But when did you ever have to break it to your folks? Like they're like, oh yeah, lawyer's good. Lawyer, that's good. That's a good one.
Oh, of course. They're like, that sounds great. You'd be an excellent attorney.
Right. Then they're like,
and honestly, I probably would have been. Like I'm a pretty logical human being, and that's probably one of the best attributes to being a good attorney. But depending on the field that you go into, but I would have been bored out of my mind, I really would. And I still go back to the guys that I used to work for, and they're like, "You are our most famous law clerk because you didn't go to law school.
It's
you
amazing.
Decided not to do it." And
it's like Matt Damon going to Harvard, like, fuck it, I'm out. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
and they were just like, it's really cool because you know what? There's too many lawyers out there anyway. It's cool that you found something that's unique and suits you well.
Do you ever get into the law dramas?
The law dramas?
Yeah, like making a murderer and like all this stuff in that.
I haven't, but I probably would suck it up.
You would be real. I think you'd be in upheaval about some of this stuff.
Like serial.
How did the thing?
I didn't do the serial. I didn't do making a murder because I feel like I would have, it would hold up in my house.
Absolutely.
And watched all of them.
It's
or listened to all of them
because you consider yourself a logical person, right? Which you feel.
Yes,
you do.
Yes, or logical enough to know when I'm being extremely illogical.
See, which is great. Self-awareness is a massive point in being aware and logical rather. Making a murder, and it won't get into much, but it's not even about that show. Mm-hmm. It's just about people framing an argument against each other. Really,
right? It's
just a pissing contest. That's what the court of law is. Really,
sure.
The defense versus the prosecution. Like, oh, well, you know what? Blah, blah, blah. You're wrong because of it. It feels like a fucking sandbox when you're in elementary school.
I mean, and I will tell you this, like, I really, really enjoy being right. It is my favorite thing. I like winning and I like being right. And that kind of makes me sound like an asshole. But I was like, that is a really good career to go into if those are two things that I enjoy extremely.
Well, it's even better when you're a server. Who's more right than the server that has knowledge? No one can negate that. And you get some people that are like, oh, but this is bad or this is bad. But that's a pretty nice place of power if you think about it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was like, man, I'm just kind of an asshole. I'm just like really being right.
It's not so bad. How does it get you, as an aside, how far does it get you down the path when you have what one might consider a disagreement with your particular partner? How is that wanting to be right treat you?
Oh, with Aaron?
Yeah.
Well, we both really, really like to be right.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
And we both really, really like winning. So it's very interesting.
Very smart too, both of you.
Yeah, he's extremely smart.
Prove that argument just slightly better than the other.
We once we were at a party and we were playing video games. Dr. Mario.
Oh, Dr. Mario.
Yeah. Dr. Mario.
Got in a lot of trouble about Dr. Mario.
And we were having a party and everybody was having a wonderful time. And then Aaron and I were against each other at Dr. Mario. And there was a moment where I looked behind me and everybody had left. They were outside drinking, having a cigarette because apparently it was too tense. And I didn't even realize it, nor did he, because apparently we were just like yelling.
In the moment, right?
Cussing, freaking out, and like winning. That's all we needed to do. Like video games are for winning. And people just left and they're like, that was kind of intense, guys. So we play on teams together.
See, that's good. Keep it, build a momentum, build a cadence.
Yes. So we would be like on the same Scrabble team.
Yes.
On the same Trivial Pursuit team. Like we do that together.
Because then who's going to beat you then? Two winners working together? That's a lot of winning power.
Oh, man, we're assholes. Yeah. Sorry to all our friends out there.
It happens. Dr. Mario, if nothing else can be learned from this particular chap, Dr. Mario brings out the darkest annals of human nature.
Dr. Mario. Yes.
The music even is kind of evil. You get to choose.
It's so good.
It's so good.
I love the Dr. Mario.
It's fucking great. Really good. So how long were you then ultimately at the Driscoll? So you make that choice, like no law school.
I was at the Driscoll for 6 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a good chunk of change.
Yeah, well, they were awesome, man. Because there were times when I worked 5 days a week, in the summer, or if I was off of school, and there were times when I could only work 1 or 2 days a week because school was really tough, and the people there were just really, really wonderful about being able to maneuver around my school schedule because they knew that I cared, and I did. And I mean, that is really the place where I learned to care about food and wine and hospitality. And I think a lot of times, like, you miss that last part, that hospitality part, when you like climb up the ranks of food and wine, and it kind of was just ingrained in me there.
This is a question I ask. So I consider you an absolute wine expert. You went to, let's put it this way, you went to school for it, more or less. Master Somm, which one I want to talk about here in a second. But why do you think it is that people that are in great positions of power in terms of their title as Master Somm or any other lesser title, why do they forget the hospitality part and become so disconnected and so inaccessible and so goddamn pretentious?
I think that it's changing. I will say that. And this is just me blabbering for the first thing that comes out of my mind. But I think that you just become more remote, from that human experience. Because as and I can tell you just from my experience, like as you increase your responsibilities, you spend less and less time tableside with guests.
Sure.
So you kind of lose that
almost
touch.
Out of practice.
Yes. You lose that touch, and then you're pushed more. You're pushed more at work to make sure that things are profitable. You're also, and this is a big one, you're also looked at differently. So if people look at you ominous, like oh my God, what an ominous figure, you start acting so, and I think
perception is reality.
Perception is reality. And and this is also like, it's mind over matter too. Like you think you've worked so hard for this title. I deserve to be looked at in a different way.
Do you think that's true?
I don't know. I mean, I hope that I am not perceived in that way, but at the same time, I definitely know that there's some people in the industry that think I'm a bitch.
Yeah.
Why
would they say that though? Because you're because you're straightforward.
Because I am one. No, I am very
fair enough.
I am very straightforward. I'm very direct. I try to be as professional as possible, and there are many aspects of the industry that are handshakes and relationships and friendship
soft
promises.
Skills,
right. And I'm not, like, I don't play golf. How about that?
You should.
I don't make deals on the golf course.
Right.
I am a very straight shooter. If I'm trying not to be mean or caustic whenever I talk to people, but at the same time, if people are kind of, if the beverage industry is very much an industry where people will try to give you things.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Too much things.
Right. And it's technically illegal.
Right.
So I don't tend to take them. And it's kind of weird.
What's the problem? You don't want this free thing?
And I will say that sampling beverages is different. I'm always yes, I want this bottle. I would like a sample bottle for my staff. I want them to taste it. So those are goods that you can accept, but I'm not accepting an iPod or you know what I'm saying?
Do you want a car to sell
or
this
Super Bowl tickets?
Right.
Those are not things that we'll get placements, but it's something that's very steeped in the industry, and it's not something that I like, but I know that it happens as well. Oh, yeah. And so I kind of get a little bit harsh with people, if there's...
So if they cross that line, that's more when the dynamic changes, probably. Right?
Yeah, a little bit. And maybe they don't cross that line, but maybe it's the expectation that I will be doing something because we're friends.
I see.
That bothers me a lot. I will be doing something because it's a good business.
Yeah.
But not because we're friends,
That's, I think there's a lot of just bring this shitty product X on.
Can you do me this favor and put this on for a little bit? And you're like, no, I kind of don't want to.
Yeah, it's really, really tough, but it's kind of it's all you scratch my quid pro quo.
It's absolutely quid pro quo. And, to an extent, I think that it sounds like I'm saying no relationships, no friendships.
No, that's not. I don't get that.
That is the teetering thing that in the end, right? This bottle of wine that I'm looking at right here.
Yeah.
That is the last portion of the puzzle that will allow something to be placed on a menu, right? First, it's the quality of the wine. Then it's how does it fit in the program of the restaurant? Do you have enough? Am I going to go through enough, right? Is it going to go away immediately? How much is it going to cost? And does it fit within the matrix of what I want it to cost on my list and the profitability level of what my boss expects this wine to make for them?
We're looking at it as a senior executive.
So there's all these things, and then in the end, if there are 10 wines that you're looking at that all fit the bill, and they're all fabulous and they're all great, the one that's going to go on the list is going to be the person that I think is the nicest.
It's like
best,
that last thing, right?
Coolest person. It's like the X factor, right?
Yeah, that's great.
You know, but first and foremost, it's all of the categories that I just listed and then some.
Yeah.
Right. But yes, it does matter if you're a good person, and it does matter if, you know, we are like-minded. Like if you are a sustainable grower, I mean, the environment is an important topic to me and hopefully to many people. So no, I don't want you to be a guy that's wasting water.
Right.
Like that sucks. So I don't care how good this wine is.
If you're doing it irresponsibly,
that's not going to get a good placement, you know?
Yeah.
And it's my job to know about those people. So I have to ask the right questions.
Do you think you're more engaged? Let me put it this way. I think you're more engaged than most other people I've met that are in that capacity. You seem like you are weighing things such as sustainability, environmental friendliness, which perhaps is sustainability, cost effectiveness. You're thinking about the growers, the culture, maybe the impact on the socioeconomic climate of the grower. I mean,
for sure.
You're absolutely like running a full fucking analysis on this stuff. But I think that's great.
I love it. I love it. So I want to know as much about it as possible. Sure. And I think, I think that a lot of people would think that I am the opposite, that I actually don't have a platform and that I'm just plugging in a formula to a number, to your profitability.
I can tell, but
I'm super calculating, but it doesn't, those things do matter. And some people are just like leading with their heart. They're like, oh my God, they're biodynamic and they love the sun and the moon and the stars and the earth. And I'm going to put this wine on the list. And there's 3 bottles and it's like going to be $250 on your list. Like that doesn't make sense sometimes, you know, depending on your concept, but that doesn't negate the fact that it's a beautiful wine from a really, really wonderful person. Yeah. You know, you have to respect it. And I think that, you know, there's some people some importers or suppliers that are like, well, you like this wine. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I really like Prada, but I don't buy Prada shoes every time I go out.
Who should?
You know, like I respect this wine. This is a beautiful
But that doesn't
product.
mean it's for you. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like when you go to the grocery store, do you buy everything that you want? Like, no. Because it's going to go bad or it's not going to work or it's not going to fit within your recipe.
Right. Or to expand. There's all these things.
Right. Right. But if you're going to make like a tomato sauce, like get the best tomato, man.
Sure. San Marzanos.
Exactly. It's San Marzanos. I'm an heirloom tomato girl.
So when did this journey, so it seems like it's kind of percolating and this interest in wine and food is just kind of coming into clarity as you're at the Driscoll for 6 years. What was that next move for you?
So the Driscoll was such a family to me. The management team actually left to create their own company.
Oh, really?
And so they moved offices, I believe, to San Antonio. And so the Driscoll got bought out by, I forget what large hotel
something
group.
Big. Yeah.
Something big. And I was like, ooh, this is weird. And then I was really at a crossroads. And it kind of happened at the time, like, do I go to law school or do I pursue this?
Man, what a crossroads, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. Like I was ready.
How old were you at that point?
I was 26.
So that's brilliant because that's, man, for most of us.
Or 25, 20, like almost 26.
But like that's when all the stuff's flowing.
Yeah.
Emotions are flowing.
And I was like,
what's my purpose is flowing? Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So I decided not to go to law school because I realized that is not what I wanted to do. That was a means to an end. And, you know, someone once said, like, the best job you have is the one where you don't feel like you're going to work every day.
Yeah.
You know, if you find out something that you like and you happen to be good at it, you should do it.
Absolutely.
And at that time, there was this like lovely buzz happening in Austin. It was just starting, I think, where
2006, 7?
Yeah. And so I got a job at Uchi.
No shit.
Yeah, I had waited on Tyson Cole and his wife Rebecca at the Driscoll, and they had a lovely meal. It was their anniversary, and we had a good time. They enjoyed the pairings and everything. And I walked in, and they didn't have any position for beverage director or beverage person.
Right.
So Tyson was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be your beverage director. Well, we don't have that. We have a consultant. And I was like, well, then I will be eventually. And I was hired as a server.
Yeah.
And then eventually they created a position for me.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And it wasn't like they had a wonderful contract consultant, but and I told them, I was like, as the restaurant grows, and that's when they were just starting the plans for Uchiko, like as the restaurant grows, you guys are going to be a big group, and this should just happen internally.
For sure. Well, you wanted to embrace the culture. You wanted everybody to benefit from it.
Yes.
Because if you're around all the time, not just a contractor, it's
and that restaurant group is all about culture. It's all about the culture of that group. It's almost like cultish. Like you drink the Kool-Aid when you're there. Yeah. And I mean, I still go there once a month. Like that's my go-to restaurant after I've been traveling overseas. Like
calibrates
off the plane of New Zealand into Uchiko immediately.
Amazing.
Like we know, like that's the trip from the airport to the bar stool, basically.
That's how good it is.
I love it. And I still feel like I'm, going to see my friends, and there's this like, it comforts your stomach in more ways than just food.
It's amazing. There is something so spectacularly special about Uchi and Uchiko.
I love it. I love them.
It's insane. And even the Houston.
And we're about to McGuire Moorman is doing a guest chef dinner with Tyson this Sunday.
Where?
At Josephine house.
No shit.
Yeah, and so it's great because then, you
get to hang out.
Yeah, and Tyson's like, well, you're going to be there. And I was like, yes, I'll be doing the pairings. Like, that's our job.
Amazing.
And we'll like be hanging out again. Like,
do you guys advertise that at all?
Yeah. It kind of happened it was advertised and it was booked.
No real surprise there.
It was just like, we're going to do this, and then it's gone. And it's a charity event. So all of the proceeds go to the Rodil Foundation. So
Andy Roddick?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's for the kids. Of course, it's going to book immediately.
Of course. Good causes always do.
So we had a really great, and still do have a really great relationship.
That's so great.
So I was their first beverage director.
Wow.
And opened Uchiko with them, and, helped establish like their culture. It was very special.
Do you feel like just take some credit, just for a second, take some credit. Do you feel like in the narrative of Austin wine culture that you did in fact push it forward?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, I've one of my best friends, Mark Sayer, is a great wine professional here in Austin. And we talk about things like this, and it's almost like, sure, people can say that, but it's also timing and luck.
Well, of course,
right? Like,
explain Ryan Gosling.
Right.
I love Ryan Gosling, but like, it has to be time. Well, that's good luck.
I mean,
but it's timing too,
and
right?
Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, but
it totally is.
But it's one of those things. Like, some of it was just timing, and was I smart enough to see the timing? Was I smart enough to be like, I'm working at Uchi. That is like the hot restaurant. I want to eat there all the time. I want to eat mackerel and uni every day of my life.
Salmon collar.
Yeah, all of that. And that is where I want to be. And I want to be a part of that. And I see this whole...
So you saw it.
I saw the whole...
But no one can blame you for being strategic in your... the way that you kind of brought your vision about.
Sure. And
takes skill.
There was a moment probably a year and a half ago where someone actually was like, well, you're June, you leave every 2 years. And I was like,
wow.
And it kind of hurt me. I was really upset about it. I was like, do all of my past employers think that I just left them? And then you look back and you're like, no, those were good moves.
Yeah.
Like, I moved and everything, and I still have a fabulous relationship with every single person that
it's not like you're pissing everybody off and smashing bottles.
No, they were all sit down.
Out.
Like, I remember I was like, Tyson Cole, I'm going to put in my notice and I'm going to become the beverage director and open Congress. And he was like, that's a really good move. I'm bummed. And I was like, I love you guys. You guys are amazing, but I need to grow as a wine professional rather than like one small list over and over again is not what I want to do.
Right.
I want the opportunity.
So what were you seeking? What did Congress offer you in terms of intellectually, maybe?
I mean, intellectually, Congress first, Uchiko was my first opening,
Uh-huh.
and maybe it's because I'm crazy, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was hard. It pushes you. You work 18 hours a day, 3 months in a row. Like and the pressure of having a successful restaurant and then opening a second one is super intense.
Right. The sophomore jinx, right?
Exactly.
You have to follow up, and it's so much pressure.
And it was successful, and I really loved that opportunity. But this opportunity came to me, and it was to do a fine dining restaurant as well as second bar and kitchen. So casual plus a cocktail bar, which I've never done. Bar Congress,
Yeah.
Jason Stevens. Ooh, I love that guy.
Yeah. Amazing guy.
He's so great. And, be able to head and work with a bartender and do spirits. Like, Uchi doesn't do spirits, know?
It
So I'd never...
Whole another chapter.
Plus a big list that's eligible for accolades. So, it was in like Wine and Spirits Best 100 wine restaurants of, the wine enthusiast, best 100 wine restaurants
Putting
in the
you
United
on
States.
a global scale.
Well, and also like being able to prove to myself that I could do it, right? Like Uchi is like luck of the draw. It's like everybody loves Uchi, everybody wants to be there. Everybody like loves it. Like here is like this huge mammoth project. Let's open 2 restaurants and a bar at the same time. That was insane.
Yeah.
So I opened that with the La Corsia team.
Yeah, that's
and
amazing.
That was the management group at the Driscoll that broke off to do their own
No
thing.
shit.
Yeah.
So it circled
So it's
back.
like, it's circled back.
Yeah.
It circled back. And then in another history of circling back, I remember Scott Walker saying, you'll probably be here for 2 years because we are not going to grow fast enough for you.
For the way that you learn, right?
Because I get bored. Saying that it sounds so sad. Like, it's not like it was a boring job, but I want more. Like, I want more responsibilities. I want more experiences. And I want to teach people to take over the things so I can do more things, right? So then Paul Key approached me and was like,
how about this thing?
I'm leaving Uchi. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. He's like, I would like for you to run my company. And it was like, wow. Okay. So stepping away from wine, going into a director of operations.
It's operations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was like, wait, I thought she was not operations.
Yeah,
not that you couldn't do it, but it's different title.
Different title, and total new experience. Like talking to the city, dealing with like interpersonal, like the partners of a company,
right.
And then opening like Eastside Kings left and right. It was
Did that appeal to you
crazy.
too?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's more and more and more, but it's different.
It's more experiences.
It's a different more.
It's a different more. That is definitely like Paul and I had a very special relationship at Uchi. Like we're both Filipino. We got the Filipino brotherhood. No, and we grew up together. At Uchi. Like that was his restaurant.
Formative years in a way.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And that's where, that was my first beverage director job. That was his first chef job. And we really had a great back and forth with each other. Like, he really trusted my palate, and there is definitely a disconnect from back of house and front of house, or, the kitchen and the front of house management, or sometimes the kitchen and the sommeliers, and where they don't trust each other or they don't work together. And we trusted each other. We really worked together. It's very, very hard to find a relationship where you're a sommelier and you feel comfortable enough to tell a chef that his dish is not right.
Wow.
And he
especially someone of that caliber, right?
He trusted me to do that. He trusted me to do that. And he also would go and have dinners all across the world and come back and say, June, I tried this wine or this sake or this cocktail. It's really cool. Like, look it up, give it a try. So he was also bringing new things to the table for me to learn.
Very cool.
It was very cool. It was a really great relationship.
That's when Michael Simon was doing the bar manager, right?
Yes.
And then Justin was there.
Yes.
And then Rachel came in later.
Yes.
Nice. Another really, really all-star bullpen.
Yes. It was so great.
It's
Man,
insane.
those guys are awesome. So open key, again, like that pressure of like, damn, we gotta do well.
Yeah.
We've got to fucking nail this. Or
Did you enjoy it, the experience?
Yes. Hard, really hard. There were moments where I would be, the alarm would go off at 5 a.m. and I was like, what am I doing? And like, I remember one day we were like we were just trying to open, and I look at the corner of my eye, and Aaron and my best friend's husband is like scraping paint off of the window. Like it was just that kind of like day. Like I need all hands on deck, and it's like my boyfriend and my best friend's husband like scraping paint. You know,
that's family, man.
It's totally family. It's totally family, and there is still that familial sense when I talk to people from Key or from Eastside Kings. Like they're great.
Yeah, Justin tells me you're really funny.
I'm really funny?
That's what he said earlier. Yeah.
I always apologize to like new stuff. Like I'm very sorry. I cuss a lot.
Yeah.
And I always make really inappropriate analogies when talking about wine.
That's really, really
super
good.
inappropriate.
Please. So there are no fucking boundaries for me, and you have yet to swear, which is totally fine and totally personal choice. However, I got it just for my own pure gratification. Got to hear one of these inappropriate wine analogies.
Inappropriate wine analogies?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, I don't like have them.
That's just naturally what
they just come out. They just come out, and it's real. And I'm like, oh, that was kind of.
It's like anti-intellectualizing something, right?
Yeah, no, it just comes out. I mean, like, not good stuff. You know, I think there's like moments where I'm always just like, you know, this wine is an adolescent. Like it's, you know, it's never been laid. It's never like, it maybe has learned how to masturbate. It just
like sits on its back, motionless.
Seriously, right. Like it's only masturbated into a sock. It doesn't know what to do yet. It's like, it has no idea what the world out there is like.
It's the nicest sock in his whole.
But seriously, I'm like, but it's practicing, you know. So let's give it like 5 years, revisit it. You don't want to say like, I'm never gonna have sex with that guy.
Right.
Let's give it 5 years, revisit, see what it turns into. Maybe it's Prince Charming, and I mean, some people love it. And some of my staff is like, I would like to see the HR manager now, and then half the time it's me.
We don't get it.
I'm very sorry. I tried to warn you guys.
Don't you get tired of all the adjectives? It's silky, it's this, mouthfeel, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
like, no, masturbating into a sock, stench, inexperience. Yeah. That is something I will not soon forget.
You're like, this wine is like, it's not there. Not there yet, you know? And oftentimes, like, you know, sex is a very, very easy analogy to make because, like, everybody has it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy. Yes, exactly. Totally. And growing up.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
From adolescence to old age, like the life cycle is super, super easy.
Yeah, and everybody can relate to that.
Yeah. And I mean, and I usually I always tell people like for structured wines, I'm always like, are you Audrey Hepburn or are you Marilyn Monroe? Oh. Are you tightly wound and a Pilates instructor? You know, or like, are you Jennifer Lopez?
Interesting.
Right? Because there's like, you know, there's like tension, but structure, but there's also structure, but blousy.
Instantly familiar too. Yeah. Oh, well, J-Lo, well, I get J-Lo. Like, right. That makes sense. It embodies like the series of characteristics.
Yes. But you also, you have to make it familiar, but you have to have the logic behind what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people who are just like, it's like Thoreau. And I'm like, okay, I mean, come on.
Well, that's too, it's so transcendent.
Yeah.
God, shut up.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta bring it down, and like pop culture is a really, really good way to form bonds with people in wine.
It's like, did you watch? So this just came to mind. But did you watch the True Detective season? Season 2?
No. So we don't have cable.
Okay, you're better off. You're better off. That was a complete waste of time. But Colin Farrell has a mustache, which is really swarthy and dirty. That in itself's got to be a metaphor for something.
Oh, swarthy? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like Tom Selleck's chest hair kind of thing? Or
yeah. Colin Farrell's mustache is pinotage.
That's right. See? Perfect. Thank you so much.
It's like sweaty and gross, but you can't stop looking at it. Right. And you're going to like watch the season of True Detective anyway. You
can't stop. Yeah, you have to do it.
And you're going to do it. That's going to be bad.
Back. You keep fucking coming back. That damn mustache.
And there's like glimpses of like, this could be good. It's not.
You so hope it's going to be good. And you you're like, oh, there's a moment. That was good. That was a good moment. But then the rest of the 50 minutes.
And I honestly, I realize that my job is translating. Like I go home and I geek out and I read about biomes and rootstocks and like clonal selections and field grafting. And I have staff that does that too. And I will tell them, like, if I ever fucking hear you say field grafting to a table, we'll fire you immediately. And they're like,
but if you say Colin Farrell's mustache, raise.
And the thing is, like, I love that you love geeking out too. Like, that is great. But it's like, if you go on a date,
it totally
and the
fail.
first thing you say is biomes, like, you are never getting laid, and you're never gonna sell this wine to somebody, and then that person is never, like, it's like when you're like, well, he could have fallen in love with me if he really knew me, right? And
the burden's on them to figure it out.
Exactly. And you're just like, you're not, if you talk about hydrogen sulfides, he's never going to really know you.
He doesn't want to. It's done. He's checked out.
Because you're a bore.
That's right.
And then you just made wine boring to somebody.
Fucking right.
So my job is to teach people and to also do it, to translate to guests, like this commonality about wines that might be a little bit geekier, a little bit different, and then to be able to take all of the knowledge that you know and share it in a way that's easy, that's applicable.
Absolutely.
You know,
that's singular.
You open doors. Like, people might want to learn about, like, grains and oak structure.
Right.
That's totally cool.
But empower them to do it on their own.
Yeah. Right? Or you know, let them say it first. It's kind of like in hospitality, you always say, like, you can be as casual with your guests so long as they are casual with you first. Like, you're never going to go to a table and high five them. But are you going to not high five a table?
If they high five you, right.
If their hand is up, are you going to be an asshole and be like, no, I'm sorry, sir, we cannot high five? You're going to high five them. You're going to high five. Like, I've done that a million times where people are like, you high five. And that's like at Congress restaurant. Like fine dining. And I'm like, I'm high fiving this guy because he is really loving his foie gras. Like, what are you going to do?
Loving life, this guy.
Yeah, but you're not walking up to a table, like, you know, high-fiving and saying, like, what's up, bro? What can I get for you?
It's disparate.
Nobody should ever say bro, even if someone bros you.
True. Very true.
So bad.
It's terrible. It's horrible. I don't think I've ever said bro.
I say bro because I think it's hilarious. It's like those things that you say and then because you hate them and then all of a sudden it becomes part of your everyday vernacular.
You know what? I got to share.
That guy.
There's a phrase that happened like this. Butt chug. I say that all the time now.
Did you just say butt chug?
Yeah.
I was out the other night and literally butt chug kept coming up. And I was like, whoa, why do people keep saying butt chugging? It's amazing.
My dad loves it. He thinks it's funny. Like, you get me. We're just like Lydia and my mom are sitting in the car and like, not with the butt chugging again. And we're just bonding. He's like, what exactly is that? I'm like, well, you know, you prop yourself upside down and you ingest alcohol through your butt.
And then you die.
That's awesome. And then you can absolutely
die.
You totally can die. Just because you don't want people to smell it on your breath, where that's the best part of it sometimes.
Right. So
it totally is the best.
Yeah, sometimes you want to be the person that smells like a bar.
Yeah. And cigarettes.
Like at yoga at 9 a.m. and you're
sure.
You're like, that smells. That
Lone
is me.
Star, huh?
I mean, I've been that person. I'm like, oh man, I am that smell. It's coming from right here, like within me.
It's when dogs look. They look at themselves like, oh, that's me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been that person.
The realization.
I was like, oh, I'm 35 and it's me. 9 a.m.
Well, so you were the key thing, beautiful thing,
awesome
to walk away from. So
very hard to walk away from.
Yeah.
So the key thing was, wonderful, great experience, fucking amazing people, but I was so, at that time or at that point in my career, I was so far away from wine day to day that I couldn't pass my Master Sommelier exam.
Oh, wow.
And that happens a lot, I think, with every increase in salary, increase in stature, you get further and further away from the thing that brought you into the industry in the first place or the thing that you love the most. Well, with Q is literally just operations, small list. Eastside Kings doesn't have wine.
No.
Like, we'll have, keg wine. And that's great and everything. But to be able to pass your Master Sommelier exam, you really got to be in wine. Like, you really have to be doing it.
Right?
And I think that Larry heard through the grapevine or my friends.
That's a good pun, by the way.
What?
heard through the grapevine. I'm sorry if you never realized it before.
I didn't. I didn't see what I did there because I didn't. That I was kind of unhappy, and not like unhappy with Key, but like unhappy with where I was.
The path, yeah.
Because I, looking at where I would be now, I would probably like be in partnership with them or continuing to do what I was doing, like continuing to open restaurants and like help manage like Paul's path and continue to teach people about service and all these great things that I do love. But there was a huge thing that was missing that was not allowing me to sit down and study. Yeah. Because when you're a director of operations, you work like 85 hours a week,
when are you going to study?
So studying was very difficult. And just being around wine, I didn't have time to taste. I didn't have time to like read up on producers, read a magazine. Like I couldn't read Decanter or World of Fine Wine, or like I couldn't go on Guildsom because there just wasn't time, and it wasn't part of my day-to-day life. Right. So
where it had been for so long.
Exactly. So Larry approached me and was like, "We need a beverage director from MMH," and I was like, "Okay." And again, like there have been wine directors and like spirits people.
Was this before Josh? After Josh?
It was after Josh. Okay, Josh had and Josh even was like, "I heard that you're talking, and they need you." Yeah, like he was like, "They need you. You should do this." So Josh had just put in his resignation to start Small Victory. A really good parting. Like everybody was very
amicable.
Yeah, go do your thing. That's awesome. And so there was a lot of back and forth, and I took time off from Key to make this decision. Like I sat the partners down and I was super upfront with them. Like, this is getting extremely stressful for me. I have been approached by Larry. I really need to think about it. You guys can fire me on the spot or tell me like, fuck you, whatever. And they were like, "We just want you to be happy. Do you want to take some time off to come to your decision?" Wow. And I did. And that's when you know that like
good employer.
They were great. And that's what made it almost even harder to leave when they really cared about your happiness. Yeah. And they're like, "Just make the decision that's right for you." And I think for the first time it was really like, can I leave them? I think every time I've always like there's a bit of naivete where I'm like, I'm going to retire here. Like I thought I was going to retire at Uchi. Right. I mean, I could have retired at the Driscoll. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to retire at LaGuardia. I'm going to retire at Key.
But that's not in your cards. You're going to keep going and keep moving.
But it's kind of one of those things where you give so much. It's your life.
You fall in love with it.
You fall in love with it. And honestly, you do it every day. You don't know anything else. Yeah. You don't know anything else. So to not know anything else and then take a step forward into like
the abyss,
right? Was really scary. And I had to do some soul searching, but I really, really wanted to get back into wine and beverages. I really wanted to do multiple outlets. Yeah. I really wanted to prove that I could handle like millions of dollars of revenue a year and continue to make it grow and profitable, but at the same time, make it really cool and interesting. Yeah. And I'm still working on that. It's not like, and then I got to MMH and everything's cool and interesting and it's profitable and blah. Like,
right. You gotta work at it.
We're still like, but chipping away at those aspects. And then now like partnering up and opening my own place with them too.
What's that?
It's happening.
I didn't know about that.
So when we first started negotiating, Larry's like, "What are you gonna do? Just like be a beverage director the rest of your life? Or are you gonna like own something?"
You smug son of a bitch.
He's like, "Are you gonna own something?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was just like, "Look, I'm not here to just say like take care of the beverages. I'm here because I think you're cool, because I like what you do, because I think that we like MMH needs someone like you, and you're gonna get bored and you're gonna want to do something on your own, and we can do that for you. Like we can."
Wow.
make that happen. And I was like, okay, that's totally gonna happen. And he was just like, what about that building? What about that building?
You didn't believe it?
Like, well, no, I totally did believe it. Like, I totally was like, you're right. Like, MMH, very successful at opening restaurants, detail oriented, beautiful, not afraid to spend money.
Right.
You know, but also you see the return. Like, those restaurants are packed and they're fun and you feel good inside of them.
Sure.
Right.
Great vibe. Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, we can do this. I just didn't think that it would happen this quickly. So
wow. So what is this? So to just frame it though, so you guys have Jeffries, Josephine House, Lambertsville, right? Clark's,
yes,
Elizabeth Street,
yes,
and Fresas.
Perla's.
Thank you.
Yeah, Fresas sold back to original owner.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm actually
there was Fresas, and then I think like basically like the owners bought out the partnership.
Gotcha. So and then Perla's, of course. So is that it? The 6?
That's 6.
Not that that's not enough.
Yes, and
that's a lot.
And we also own By George.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The clothing
yes.
spot. So what is this wonderfully enigmatic 8th place that perhaps you are a partner and or equity owner in?
It's a wine bar.
No, really?
Yeah, no,
don't say.
So crazy. No, it's gonna be open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
Have you guys announced the name?
Yeah, it's June's.
Really?
Yeah. So
does it have your face on it?
No, thank God.
And lights.
Oh my
like
God.
In Vegas.
So every time like the idea, or we would casually just talk about opening something together.
Yeah.
And they would just call it, and then June's place will open. And then June will do a place, and like June's place or whatever. Yeah. And then they started joking around like June's Sports Bar. You'll be the only master sommelier with a sports bar. And I was just like, hi, guys, it's really funny. That's hilarious. Really anyway, funny. What are we really going to call it? Yeah. And they're like, no, we're going to call it June's. And I was like, no, we're not. They're like, yeah, we are.
I feel a little exposed here.
I know. And they're like, what's wrong? And, at first I was like, I think I'm going to want to bounce or something.
Right.
And I was like, it's not that I want to bounce. It's just that even if I was doing something by myself without any money from anyone else, like all of my money is all of my whatever, like I no investors, never would I ever call it June's. And they were like, why not? It's such like a comforting name. And I was like, because I look like, do you want to call it Larry's? And he was like, no, my name sucks. And I was like, every single person thinks their name sucks.
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
Every single person growing up was like, my name is not awesome. Like I wanted to be called Jennifer, I thought Jennifer,
something else, anything else
was a cooler name, and it takes many, many years to become comfortable with your name, and I think I'm just now getting there. So to put my name on a building is insane,
bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, and so a lot of back and forth, and they're really like totally convinced me because they're like, it makes a lot of sense, and I was like, why? Tell me why it makes sense, and they're like, look at all of our names. They're all like really cute names.
Right.
And gravitate towards people. So Lambert's is Lou Lambert's, right? Jeffrey is like original restaurant name. Josephine House is like original like person. Clark's obviously is for Clarksville, but it has that feel to it, And so they're like they're people's names. Like they're very welcoming. And
so you've accepted it.
I have sort of accepted it. No, I've accepted it because that's what it is. Like that is
you got no choice.
That is the LLC's name. There's we didn't go for a DBA. Like they just,
that's what it is.
We went for it. And I was like, all right. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, June's is like a really good month.
Yeah.
It's like the best month of the year. So
perfect.
So we'll just do it that way.
When do you anticipate that it will or will not open?
It will not open in June. It would be really cool if it did.
Have you guys picked the place out too?
Or yeah.
Very cool.
Yes.
Build out started already or no?
Demo is done. So
nice.
Yeah. So it's
very cool.
It's gonna be cool.
So an approachable wine program?
Hell yes. I mean, why would I want an unapproachable wine program?
Well, how about this? Easy to pick something delicious without feeling like you're in over your head?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's in a tourist-driven area. It's on South Congress Strip.
Cool.
So, I mean, South Congress is littered with just like passersby.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a person that doesn't believe in having a Chardonnay on by the glass.
Sure.
I've done it.
Yeah.
It worked at Key because why? Because like when you go to Key, you want your mind blown, right?
Right.
Like you don't give a fuck what you're like, I just want everything to be creative and crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we didn't have we didn't have like a Chardonnay on by the glass. And I was like, oh, this is really working. That's kind of cool. But like if you go to Clark's, like that is not the place to do that, you know? And then there's also like a disparity, like at but I love Buffalina. It's one of my favorite places.
Oh my God.
The list is totally esoteric, right?
Yeah.
It is.
It's very short though.
It's
not
short.
Really big
Have you seen the big one?
I haven't
You
seen
can ask
the
for
big one.
It's really good. It's really good. And it's really amazing. And it's some of my favorite producers. It's littered with French producers and Italian producers that are natural wine producers that have weird names attached to them. And like the reason why it works is because you're eating pizza and everybody knows what that is. Like you're walking into a restaurant with like minimal decor,
All right.
minimal pretension, right?
None at all, really.
Yeah, just like pizza,
Fuck yeah.
simple, okay, I feel comfortable already, so I will buy this glass of Valdegay from California, right? So that's, you have that. But if you walk into like Clark's or Elizabeth Street or any of our restaurants, it's so beautifully detailed, right? So there is already like this prettiness about it.
Absolutely.
That's very detailed. Like to add a wine list that's so esoteric, I think would be too much,
Counterintuitive to the whole vibe, right?
I think it would be alienating. Yeah. So no, I'm not into super esoteric only, but what I do want to do is have like a list that's printed, and then my vision, we'll try it out, is to have a rotating list like on the board or I think it'll be a mirror. Of themes of fun shit.
That's so cool.
Because why not?
Well, why not?
Well, one of my biggest
why not?
Why not?
I'm running loose here.
one of the biggest complaints that I hear, not maybe complaints, but suggestions from wine professionals that come into the city is, hey, June, I really want a fabulous bottle of champagne, like high-end, amazing, small producer champagne, but I don't want to go to a white tablecloth place.
Perfect.
So now tell me where you tell them to go.
I have no idea.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm always like, you can go to the bar, Jeffrey. Or like, I'm like, you can, well, no, there's like 2 champagnes only at Buffalina.
Yeah.
I mean, so I start like going down the list, like you can bring one to Buffalina.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can go to, well, they only have 2 champagne. Or, like.
Yeah. So there's a market need for it in a sense, right?
Right. And I'm like, no, but we can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it. What if we just like have a badass champagne list of like 50 champagnes for 3 months? Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And just with a board, you can like take a marker and cross it out like that guy's gone. We have all these other amazing things, And I think that there's a lot of allocations in life and much in wine that you only get 1 offs, 2 offs, 3 offs. So you may as well throw it on a board and see what happens rather than just like hold on to it because it's your unicorn wine.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So the one thing, I was talking to Paula Rester here recently, I think something that's really important to talk about is, it seems like to me at least, that this is a particularly male-dominated industry, right or wrong. I just think kind of how it is. Do you feel that people ever... I never have gotten this interpretation of you, by the way. I think you're very bold and very dynamic, and people don't want to fuck with you. But have you ever has it been palpable to you that it is a boys' club?
It is surely by numbers. Yeah. And that's not something that I should never deny. I think it's important to state it, but what is cool is that it's important to the guild that I am in, to the Master Sommelier Guild, that there are more women.
Yeah.
Like they're very, very promotional of it. Like they really love that there's more women that are coming into the fold. And I think it's just because it's not that there's this weird boys club. It is a fraternity.
Yeah.
Do not get me wrong. Just as like I mean, I'm looking at your like Star Wars fraternity. Like that is its own fraternity that I'm know very little of, right?
Right.
I've only like read the prologue of this fraternity.
That's probably enough.
And
for some of them.
Yeah, so there is definitely like some weird secret society shit that's going on.
Right.
Once you like go
Nerding
to the fold, because we nerd out, and it's really because like we don't want to show you how big of nerds we actually are to the public. But it is very important to be aware of the numbers, and there are very few women in our industry, but that doesn't mean that there are very few women that aren't coming up.
Sure.
You know, so what I always say is like you got to look at how young this industry is in the first place, right? Yeah. And the model,
right? When you're just talking about it, being at the Driscoll and saying, "Is this isn't even a feasible career in the eyes of other people yet?" Exactly,
and you know, sadly, traditionally, a lot of careers start as male-dominated careers first, and as a young one, that's exactly what happened. So what I look at to show is to show people that it can be done, A, and B, that it is happening. Not just like, oh, I would like to be an example to show that it can be done. The shit's happening. Like
it's changing whether anyone likes it.
It is changing and it is amazing. So for instance, the test right before mine is the advanced sommelier exam. Okay. And presently we are seeing equal percentages of genders pass.
Amazing.
So it's great. So it does show that there is definitely a new wave of women sommeliers that are taking their test. They're just waiting. They're on the docket. Yeah. We can only produce so many tests a year.
Right.
So there's only one master sommelier exam a year, and there's only, I believe, 2 advanced exams a year. So it's just they're just waiting to take the test.
That's
and
amazing.
But when they do take the test, like
they kill it.
The genders are equal.
That's brilliant.
So I don't, you know, in reference to the guild, absolutely not. Absolutely, the numbers show basically all dudes. Like I believe I'm the 23rd woman in the United States, in North America.
Wow.
It's very few.
How many guys?
There's like 144 total, so 120.
So, Jesus. Yeah.
So, yeah. And then there's like 200, I'm going to say there's about 240 total in the world. Mm-hmm. And I believe in the high 30s for women.
Wow.
And that's it. So few. But those times are changing, man. There are a lot of women that are waiting to take that test. And when they do, they're going to pass.
How do you feel about being someone that I think about the people that have come in here into the house, like the people that I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to, and I've never talked to a master somm ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like there aren't that many of you guys. I gotta be frank.
I guess not. I guess I'm just like flooded around them.
There's
like,
so many mezcal.
There's that guy.
So many mezcaleros. Like in comparison, there's so many, you know, and so many guys that are wonderful and importers and all that. But like, does it ever like dawn on you? Do you ever take some time to just say, because I feel like there's this common thread with a lot of people that are really ambitious and inherently intelligent, and they keep striving for more. Mm-hmm. They're doing new things, they're doing bigger things, they're doing different things, because the world is not enough. Not to go back to a James Bond movie, but it's not, right? You just have to keep going. Keep going. Do you ever just sit back and reflect, even for the shortest amount of time, to say, I am a massive minority in terms of this industry, and it's an amazing accomplishment? You ever feel proud of that?
I am proud. You're right. It's not enough. I'm proud because I did work very hard for something. Mm. And I'm proud to have accomplished it, but that is not the whole of who I am, you know? And I think that a lot of people do live and die by the pen.
Right.
And I think it's important. I think that a lot of people don't get it because they live and die by it.
Yeah.
You know? And it becomes this head game. Like, I'm not going to get married until I become a master sommelier. I'm not going to have a baby until I become a master sommelier. You know, I'm going to stay in this job that I hate because I think that it's the best thing for me until I become a master sommelier. And I hear those words and I think, like, what are you doing, man? Like, you only live once, so you can do it all. And I know that sounds like, in a way, naive. But
why is that naive?
Well, because
you've shown that you can be very proficient and excel in many different things. You pass the LSAT,
But-
it's not an easy task, mind you.
but you know, yeah, you have to manage your time wisely and you have to prioritize. You know, so you can have it all, but you do have to prioritize, right? But that doesn't mean that you have to stop your life, because a lot of this test is about who you are. A lot of this test is about experience, you know? Like, I would not have passed this test without the experiences that I had. And I mean, honestly, like, a lot of times, you know, people are like, you pass and that's it. And that's what you focus on.
Yeah.
But it took me 3 times to pass the Master Sommelier exam, right?
Yeah.
And for someone who's so focused on finishing hard, finishing fast, and finishing strong, is very hard to not pass it the first 2 times, you know?
Disheartening.
Very disheartening. And you realize, and I realize, you know, that the 2 years that I didn't pass are 2 years of experience that I was not a master in my skills.
Yeah.
I did not know enough, you know? And do I know enough now? Sure. I mean, you know, I knew enough that
As you
day.
put your hands up, I guess I know.
I knew enough that day. But by the time you take that test, you look around and there are some of the people that you admire and respect the most that do not pass that day.
Wow.
And it's a head game.
Man.
It's not about your body of work. It's not about your knowledge. It's not about your experience. It's about everything.
Yeah.
And that day. It's really a lot. And it's like, you got to get out of that head game, you know, to be able to pass. And some people are not game day players. And it's really sad, because they're brilliant people and they're amazing professionals. But it is the pressure of testing that sometimes gets them.
Man. So
It's weird.
Do you ever feel lucky that you did it?
Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah.
Of course. I feel really lucky, but it does, you know, I hear the numbers all the time because I am such a minority, because A, I'm a woman.
Yep.
B, I'm Asian.
Yep.
You know, I am one of 2 Asian women master sommeliers in the North America.
Oh, that's wow.
So it's not.
That's even
And that's if you call Indian Asian, right? Like some people, I do, but
yeah, you should. Yeah,
I think you should. So yeah, so me and this woman Alpana in Chicago are the only 2 Asian master sommeliers.
that's something.
It's weird. It's weird to be like, that's that one girl.
The only thing
that does that one thing.
You're like the one that survives the disease. They just don't.
Right. I survived the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
You know, on
I die of dysentery. You go on.
on meager rations over and over and over again. And I do have to reflect, because like someone introduces me, they're like, well, the 23rd woman, like that is part of who I am now.
Now it is.
Like that's the number. I am that number in the lineup. So I have to get used to it. I've heard from, you know, masters, like seasoned masters, that it takes a few years to settle in, because like I don't wear my pen at work. I wear it to events when I'm supposed to, but I don't like our staff to wear their pen, because I don't want them to think that their pen makes them better. Right. If there's one is bigger than the other.
I think that's brilliant to keep it humble always, you know?
Like, I'm proud of them, and I want them to wear it when they go to tastings, when they go to court events, when they do all of that, because it's a huge accomplishment, but they are a team. And that doesn't mean that one is better than the other because of an accomplishment that they've made outside of work during that shift.
You don't tie your degree to your neck. You know
Exactly. You're proud of it. I'm proud of. I mean, I'm proud of Aaron for getting his master's degree. Right? Like, it's an amazing accomplishment. But he's not like, hey, Master June. I'm like, Master Aaron. What's going on? We don't. You know, like you don't.
We're
do
the
that.
masters of the universe.
Yeah. The masters Rodil Gaith. We're like, please, that'll just be on our mailbox from now on. It's important.
Keep it humble.
It's just important to know that it applies to your work because there's a master of the field and the work that you've decided, but that does not mean that you're a good employee just because you've accomplished something.
You're right. Or a good person even.
Yeah. Or a good person
Which
even.
happens.
And it does happen. And it's just, it's It's weird. They're like, there's 9 judges on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Only 9. And like a lot of them suck. Right?
At least they're dying off, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't say that every master sommelier is amazing. And it's one of those things where people, I did it like, and I've been told like you get assigned a mentor, which is brilliant because it is kind of a weird thing in the industry where people start looking at you different or talking to you differently, or I have like distributors, they'll just be like, well, you don't even go to these things anymore. And I was like, oh, come on, bro. Like, and I'm like, first, I tell you when I'm busy. Second, I send people because I have a staff that needs to go to tastings, and it's really, really funny. Like this, you're too busy or you're master sommelier now. You don't need to go to tastings. And I'm like, I'm not like,
kind of above it.
I'm not like kinetically tasting it now. It's just like a new, like.
That's not a skill you learn.
It's not a new skill. I still want to. Right. I still like it. But it is weird because like forever the initials will be behind my name.
That's right.
They don't strip them from you. It's super bizarre.
Strange.
It's like a PhD.
Yeah. I want to get that.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, maybe I can get more. And then like eventually they'll spell F-U-C-K. Like you can just have that in the back of your name, but I don't think it works that way.
They've probably aligned the systems against that particular
There's a lot. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's not enough. Like I got my MS and now I'm opening my own restaurant.
I can't even imagine what's
It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Well, it's been brilliant chatting with you. And so for one more time, because I love this sparkling wine.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad.
It's really, really wonderful. And what's the grape varietal again?
Malvasia. Malvasia. Yeah, and it's a white grape. I mean, it makes Madeira, it makes still wine, it makes sweet wine. Yeah. This is it in a sparkling form.
Slightly cloudy, but really, really subtle.
Yes.
Not too acidic.
No, not at all. It's a soft wine. It's a soft grape. It's not a grape that's known for high acidity. Yeah. It's a grape that's kind of known for body and lushness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it kind of brings in kind of like nutty yet fruity tones.
Yeah, cheesy. It's just that lower end stuff, back of palate more so than the very, very tip. Mm-hmm. It's been lovely chatting. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, there we have it, everybody. The first Master Somm ever to enter my house, and the first Master Somm that I've ever got to really dig in deep and ask those very tough questions like, what kinds of swear words do you like to use? I had this massive opportunity, and yet again, I went to the gutter. June continues to be a leading personality, and she's heading up the beverage program as beverage director for the McGuire Moorman Hospitality Group. Talk about Jeffrey's, you talk about Josephine House, you talk about Perla's. If those 3 weren't enough to get a great meal, have a great ambiance, and have great cocktails, we can always look forward to the new June place, June's. Wine heavy probably, but yet accessible, friendly, and always looking to do something new, like June herself. So thanks everybody for listening to Wine Week at Show to V with Mike G. As always, a pleasure bringing these conversations to you. And no matter what your plans are and what kinds of French fries you prefer to eat, small cut, thick cut, sweet potato fries, despite Francisco Terrazas having a large opposition to them, please keep dancing.